I've tried making this video several times now, and I would get into the middle of the editing process and just end up deleting it because I think that the recent events were just so raw. There's so much, on my part, just anger that it's very important. We're going to start off by talking about how that it's very important to make sure that you do not allow emotions to overrule conscious thought. And that is why I ended up deleting those other videos, because as I was going through the editing, it was obvious that it was just too emotional, just too much anger, and it just did not turn out right. So here we go again. And everything that has happened, I know it's easy to get angry. It's easy for emotions to overrule conscious thought, and regardless of the situation, if you ever do that, that's when you're going to fail. If you let fear paralyze you in a situation to where you need to get out of, then you have a situation to where you're not thinking clearly, and it's going to make it much more dangerous and a lot harder for you to get out of it. Emotions can be used as a tool at times, but at the same time, if they overrule your thought process, then they can be dangerous. That is where we are. And I think that everyone needs to kind of step back and think logically about everything that's happened. Yes, anger. Anger is something that I know a lot of people, including myself, has felt because of what has happened. And it's not just one of the events that has happened recently. We have had a couple that are just absolutely infuriating me. The first, of course, that we're going to mention is what happened with Charlie Kirk. Another is what happened with the lady, the Ukrainian woman down in the Carolinas. And both of these incidents are things that we as a nation should overwhelmingly reject. But the problem is there's too many people that are supportive of what has happened. There are too many people out there celebrating what is only considered to be an evil act. And I think that it brings us to the point to where we need to ask the question of what does it really mean to be an American? And I want you to examine a couple of things and think about things in your own life, think about things in your own household, how you would do. You know, our basic form of government, it begins with the family structure. From the family structure, it has expanded into community, and that is where we get government. But at the same time, throughout the history of man, you know, God ordained the family first. When we get to the point to where the corrupt nature that is within ourselves, within the human condition, get to the point of overruling and its lust for power and using those positions as tools to benefit themselves while at the same time of harming others. That is a recipe for disaster. But what we have now is a situation to where there is so much division within the communities, within our country, that we need to look at a few basic elements. Now, I'm sure that many of you guys out there's people that you've had in your life that you cannot have them there anymore. Even people probably in your own family, people that you are blood related to, you cannot have them in your family because it is so toxic, it is so destructive to your conscious thought that you have to separate yourself from them. And I think that as a country, that is just about where we are. There are two completely different opposing ideologies that are struggling for control. In fact, I would break it up to more than that, to many more than that, because each of the two major ideological struggles, there are a lot of subcultures. There are a lot of individual groups within them. But at the same time, there is this opposing force. You know, you've got people on one side that believe in traditional American values. Then you have people on the other side that absolutely want to destroy the traditional America that we have all known, that our ancestors fought for, that our ancestors labored and sacrificed so much to build. And this other group wants to just throw that away and destroy it. Is everything that we have in our country, in our society, in our culture perfect? No. But if you look at history, if you study cultural geography of the world, you're going to see the advantage that we have here in our country compared to other countries. The problem is we have got too many that are in this country now who are so opposed to what this country has stood for. They want to see it destroyed. That is a conversation that we need to have. At what point do we say no? We have got at the point now, I know there's people out there that want to talk about conversations. We can just sit down and talk it through. Charlie Kirk did that. And look what happened to him because of it. Not only what happened to him, but the fact that they are mocking what happened to him. When you take it to that extreme, you've lost the argument. Charlie Kirk ultimately won that argument because of what they did to him. Regardless of the debates, what they did, they could not stand what he was doing. He was actually going out there having conversations and debates on the issues, and people hated him because of it. Many more loved him, but he was so hated by some. Look what they did to him. And the only thing that has done is amplified his voice. When it gets to the point that someone hates someone else to the point that it does not matter what that person does, all they do is hate them, they want to see them destroyed or whatever, then that is an inexcusable way to do someone. That's an inexcusable pattern of behavior that comes out. What we have seen in recent years, and this is not just a recent thing, this is something that has happened building for years. We have seen groups being attacked, and we have seen the attackers follow the same pattern. We've seen what happened to President Trump. We've seen how that when the Democratic Party had control of institutions of power, they used those institutions of power to not only go after Donald Trump to try to stop him from gaining back power, but they literally put the man's lawyers in jail for filing paperwork with the courts, just as a sign to try to intimidate others, to keep them quiet, to keep them to the point of not wanting to work with him. Not only have they gone after political people like Trump, they have gone after everyday Americans. When the COVID pandemic came around, you saw these same people that were going out and literally trying to get people who refused to take an experimental drug fired from their job. People that opposed what they were doing, who questioned some of the science, which if you know anything about the scientific method, the first thing that the scientific method is that you question things. They tried to shut down anybody that did not go along with them, with this woke mentality, this woke culture. When parents started questioning what their kids were being taught in schools, we had the reins of power being used to send out literally FBI agents to investigate parents. You had police arresting parents at school board meetings that would call the school boards out. And any time that anyone opposed this, and this is not politicians, this is everyday Americans, that is how the reins of power were used against the average person in this country. Fast forward to now, what we see with what has happened with Charlie Kirk, with what has happened since that attack, we see just a vile display of just how terrible it is. When we see these people getting to the extreme that they are celebrating this man's death just because of his political positions, not someone that hated anybody. If you watch a lot of his videos, and I know there's a lot of people out there that are now hearing about Charlie Kirk for the first time. If you watch a lot of his videos, they are a typical debate video. They are, someone comes out, gives their views on something, and Charlie gives his views on something. Sometimes they back it up with facts, sometimes they don't. You know, Charlie always would have some type of a source to back up his opinion. And that is a critical part of it as well. You know, too many times in this day and age, we have opinions that are based on pure emotion and not on anything that can be looked to as fact. If you are letting emotion overrule you, as like I had mentioned earlier in this video, then you have a problem. You have a problem when emotion is driving you more than thought. And it's a dangerous thing to do. And that's where we are. The other thing that I want to talk about is the Ukrainian woman in North Carolina, I believe it was North Carolina, and what happened to her. We have a culture of a lack of accountability. And what we see here is the perfect example of it. The individual that attacked her had been arrested and convicted multiple times. 14 arrests, multiple felony convictions, and many of those were for violence. And he was turned back out on the streets. We have a political system now and a judicial system that not only works against the interests of the people, it is outright opposed to protecting the people from criminals. We worry so much about the rights of criminals that we forget about the victims. There is a time that judgment needs to be handed down from our judicial process, and we are seeing it laxed terribly. And this case is one of many examples of it. If you have a society that uses its judicial system and its laws to prosecute people for defending themselves while at the same time releasing criminals who harm them, there is a major problem, and that society is not going to stand. This country has turned its back on God. This country has turned its back on justice. And if God doesn't judge this country, he would have to apologize to Sodom and Gomorrah. So I don't see him doing that. This is something that we need to recognize. Charlie Kirk, he is a Christian. He's gone home. It is our loss that Charlie Kirk is not here anymore. But at the same time, where Charlie Kirk is someplace that all of us need to go once we leave here. And if you do not turn to Jesus Christ, then you do not have a hope beyond this life. One day, I look forward to meeting Charlie Kirk, as well as many others. And it is because of what Christ has done. That is why I will be able to do that, for what he's done for me, what he can do for you. There's a lot of people reflecting on their life. There's a lot of people reflecting on what has happened recently. I really think that we are on a trajectory that is not going to stop. I think that it is something that is potentially dangerous. I think that this country, the division that is in it currently, is insane, and I don't see it getting much better. But at the same time, with all that being said, you can prepare yourself for your family, not just physically, but also spiritually. But guys, hopefully this video makes it online. I'll know when I get through the editing process. Again, like I said, I've sat down, tried to record this many times, and have ended up deleting it in the editing process. If this one makes it out, guys, good. I hope it is something that gets you thinking. But guys, thanks for watching. I'm going to put a link down in the description to a couple of things that I hope you check out. One is going to be to one of my favorite Bible teachers, to where you can go over there and just listen. It's free. And there also, you guys, I hope that these things, these events that we've seen happen recently, has opened a lot of eyes to where we are and the evils that we have in our world around us. Guys, thanks for watching. Check out the rest of the videos on the channel. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me what your thoughts are. Love to hear from you. Take it easy. Be safe out there. Don't let the emotions overrule your conscious thought. And guys, we'll see you next time.